Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I'm on leechess.org, and I just got paired up playing a 15-2 game against Flinkston. I don't think this is well, probably our first time playing classical. So let's see. I guess we'll start with c4. See what black throws at us. c5, e6, g6, e6 it is. Okay. Well, what haven't I done yet? Let's try knight c3. Maybe we could go in for a classical variation of the Nimzo-Indian. Yeah, why not? Okay. Just prepared to maintain my structure on the queenside. I don't want to work with doubled c-pawns. The drawback, of course, is that I'm neglecting kingside development. And also, well, I'm deploying my queen very early. So I could go right in for just a3. Yeah, let's do it. I have to give up the bishop pair, as otherwise I just get a free move right in the center, e4. Strong pawn center. So I'm acquiring a long-term advantage in that of the bishop pair, but the cost is development. And I'm not too familiar with this line. I mean, I've seen it before. This b5 move, so let's see how to meet this. It's not just a free pawn. They're going to be getting some activity. I think I'm supposed to take it and then go from there. Let's do it. And I may, let's see what they do. Okay, c6. Now, this is where I could just go no further with capturing, as capturing is going to help out with their development. So, right around this point, I'm just thinking get kingside development in. So how exactly to do this? One thing I'm questioning is, do I have time to deploy my bishop outside the pawn chain before e3? What I can expect is a quick bishop to b7. And so I think I'm going to want to have knight on f3. Let's say knight f3, c takes b, e3, bishop b7, bishop e2 to defend my knight. My queen will soon have to move again. The c-file will be completely opened soon enough. Well, let's get my knight here for starters. I don't think he's going to go anywhere else. I wonder if I could have considered bishop f4. Now that's probably not a good idea. A couple knight moves to strike at my queen. They're thinking a little bit here, so maybe they're not familiar with me declining, or white declining on move 8. I don't know, just a guess. As usual, I'm just kind of playing with some general principles here as my guide. Okay, I can't get in e4. I don't think I want to. Let me work this out, because if I could get bishop g5 in, I'd really like to do that. Bishop g5, bishop b7, e3. Bishop takes knight. They really give me the two bishops. I don't think that would be so much of a problem. What's worth noting is that when I play e3, I'm striking at b5. Don't know that I want to take it. But let's see. What more to consider? I'm torn between bishop g5 and e3 right now. I really feel like I could get away with just getting this guy out first. As otherwise he's really going to struggle, isn't he? Right? Pawn on e3, pawn on b2. How is he ever getting out and about? I'm not up any material. How many more moves does black need? 3 more before they're fully developed. 1, 2, 3. There'll be a move or two ahead, because I'll be having to move my queen. I think I'm going to go with this. Yeah, and if questioned, I don't know if I want to get pushed around. Maybe. Cross that road when we get to it. So let's see. I guess knight here is a move. Maybe. Some fork. I take their queen, they take mine. We'll see. Still running with the 2 bishops. I'm just looking at e3, bishop e2, kingside castle, of course. Where's this knight going to go? Pretty sure the bishop will be posted on the long diagonal. Here's sometimes you see this kind of tactic play a role with the rook being unprotected. a5, b4, takes, hitting my queen and the rook. We're a ways off from that, but anyhow. Let's get e3 in, where they really invest their light square bishop in order to damage my kingside structure. We're just going to have to run with it, if that's the case. They have a choice here. I may want to just take that knight out on f6 if questioned with h6. As otherwise my queen could be a bit uncomfortable. Like, okay, I'm kind of happy to see that move. It feels pretty slow. Like almost like black should have maybe given me this pawn somehow and, you know, got some more rapid development in. I can't say for sure. Bishop e2 is the most conservative, just eliminating any possibility for black to damage my kingside structure. 2 options. I think I want to go to e2. This is a strong piece. And so I may look to offset it one day by playing my bishop to f3. I think I could pull that off a bit easier than if my bishop was on d3. You know, something like this one day to challenge the light square bishops. Let's go with bishop e2. No fixed pawns in the position. Some pawns on light squares. They have a light square bishop, but nothing fixed, nothing defined just yet. If a move like d5 is played, then we could identify this bishop as not such a great piece, but we're not quite there. This may be an idea. d6 seems pretty solid, with then knight d7. And this knight might look to focus in on these squares. The c4 square is a pretty key square, I would say, because the pawn controls it. We can one day see a heavy piece controlling it. It's one of those intersection squares, and a square that should capture our attention. So let's see what Flinkston is coming up with here. Yeah, I think these maybe are all blitz or bullet games that we've played. 1-0 time control. 1-0. Yeah, I guess they're all 1-0s. Well, some hyperbullet. Okay, so knight c6 it is. There's another avenue into c4. Well, I don't think I could do without castles. Should I be looking to prevent this maneuver? If I want to do that, I could maybe use this moment here to do just that with, let's say, b4. And I have my own ideas in mind with maybe pivoting on the c5 square, although the c5 square isn't a hole. If I play b4, the c4 square is a hole, and they could start to organize their pieces in some way where a minor piece lands on c4. It could be quite a tricky piece, because it's the b3 square is a hole. You know, castles, rook c8, pretty sure is coming up soon. Queen d2, knight a5, threatening knight b3. It feels uncomfortable. Yeah, that feels uncomfortable. I wonder if I should be playing b4 here. Well, my queen is hanging if I do that. And so this might actually be a move then. b4, knight e4. Bishop takes queen, knight takes queen. My bishop's under fire, and I'm not even threatening to take the knight. Yeah, probably can't be playing b4 here. Well, if I can't play b4, I'm probably just going to have to castle. Yep, let's castle. Also, you know, maybe I'm a bit mistaken here about rook c8, queen d2, and knight a5, because this might be a moment for me to take advantage of the queen being overloaded. She currently has a responsibility, pretty much has a responsibility to be there to recapture on bishop takes knight. Otherwise, a messed up kingside structure for black. So yes, rook c8. Queen d2, I am defended by my knight. Queen d2, knight a5, bishop takes knight. Okay, let's get out of the line of fire. There is this move. Yep. She does not belong on an open file. h6 is probably the move here. Flight square, throws a punch, and I don't know if I do well to maintain the pin in this case. h6, bishop h4, g5, bishop g3, knight e4. My queen, as it is already pretty, she's pretty short on squares. I can't go to any of these. I don't want to go back here, so it's like one of these two for my queen. I guess I could have considered queen d3, but that just didn't feel right. Because I wanted to keep this, I want to keep my eyes open for this. I think I'm just going to take the knight if h6 is played. I help the queen to develop. They have a flight square. But I'm not having to worry about the knight getting into c4 by way of a5 at least. Eventually this knight will have to find a new square, as otherwise, he's placing a blindfold over two pieces as it is right now, so the rook and bishop can't really see the world until he finds a new post. What might his post be? h6, bishop takes, queen takes. Let's say I go to the c file. Knight e7 into here? I don't know. It feels a little bit like an awkward piece. I wonder if black is having some regret with his post to c6. I was referencing maybe d6, knight here. Stays out of the bishop's way, stays out of the rook's way. and connects knights. You know, if you could imagine that the knights were connected right here, and then my bishop was questioned, on bishop takes knight, there's knight takes, and then I'm having to maybe work around a knight camping out on e4. It's a different approach. What to do? There was some flexibility, I guess we could say, with black's queen knight. I'm not sure what other move here there is for black. Would they really go in for this? Bishop takes, pawn takes, and say that I really can't make use of the damage structure? Whoa. Okay, well, this limits my replies here. I guess the queens are going to have to come off, huh? Yep, pretty forced here. Knight takes knight with check. So at least they got rid of my dark square bishop. That's what they accomplished with this sequence. So now we're officially in an endgame where my knight is a little bit closer to getting into the c5 square, which still is not yet a hole. I'd really like to play this position where I keep my opponent, I want to somehow play against this light square bishop. If I could have a bishop for knight exchange and there be some hole within the black position, like on c5, I'd really like to go in for something like that. But first things first, we have an open C file. There is only one open file. We will need to occupy it. And the big question that often comes about, which rook should occupy that file? Probably the F rook, because I have some idea of my king drifting towards the queenside. We could see both rooks exchanged. Knight and bishop, specific endgame, is not long off. I won't be capturing. I don't have a minor piece supporting a rook on c1, so I just have to keep the tension. Where's this knight going to go? Knight a5 could be kicked. I have enough control over c4. Most sensitive point in my position. This is what I consider at least the most sensitive point in my position, c4. To be careful of g2 if I'm trying to do this. Sniper bishop. I was pointing out c5 not being a hole. d6 is a hole. I don't know how I could get there successfully, though. This is tactically flawed. Knight e4, knight takes e. a5 is a hole? I don't know how great a bother a knight would be on a5, though. The bishop backs up, and my knight is kind of, can't quite pass the now what test, the two-word test. He doesn't have a great follow-up. About a minute advantage for my opponent. 16 moves in. Even material. He could look to drift over with the king. That would be pretty sensible. My bishop's unprotected. To be on the lookout for tactics. As an example of king f8, if I just say to myself, oh, let's just double, this is already a problem. Rook c2 allows knight takes pawn. And on rook takes rook, there's an in-between move. Knight takes bishop with check. So this would be a mistake. If I really want to look to double, I would have to go by way of c3 to a defended square, which is maybe not a bad idea. Yeah. So their king is drifting over. Why not look to double? If I'm doubled up, I could be assured of what exactly? Probably both rooks coming off, right? Well, if I double up now, I think in the end I'll be able to force one of their pieces to retreat on a recapture. Right, rook c3, king here, rook's double, let's say knight a7. One of the pieces is retreating on a recapture here. One of the pieces is running in reverse. That might be a window of opportunity for me to occupy this long diagonal with my bishop, should the bishop be the one that recaptures on c8. He is not playing. I think, I was saying I want to get my king towards the queenside, but I think first things first, it's more important to get the rooks functioning before we go with these slower moves. I don't think that provoking a move like d6 is good for me. I think that this is a desirable move for black, so let's go to c3, where he is defended. Very important that I go to a defended square. Okay. That knight doesn't have... Ooh, you know what? Knight a5 I can't play b4, but I don't need to kick that knight so fast. Yeah, I could just double. Knight a5, rook a to c1. If the knight looks to reposition by way of e7 and d5, the knight's still in the way of a piece, right? Bishop can't see so clearly. I was pointing out the king, just kind of walking along the first rank, but maybe f3, king f2 is better, with an idea of maybe e4 expanding in the center, forming a pawn duo, taking away some squares. Not overly excited about this. I'm a bit fearful of putting in a structure, an f3, e4, d4 structure, this one here, because this might be an opportunity for black to then fix one of my pawns on a light square with, let's say, d6 and then e5. Ideally, I want to keep some good harmony between my structure and bishop. Pawns on dark. He'll guard the light. Knight a5 it is. Let's double. These are offsetting pieces. I'll be recapturing with the rook. I guess I don't have to pre-move. We got increment. Pretty balanced on the clock now. Yeah, it's going to be tough to make progress. Rooks most likely will be exchanged. Pretty level position. Yeah. Probably a goose egg reading by the engines. Okay. Could force the bishop in reverse. Can I make this knight just go backwards some? I want to be careful about weakening c4 too soon. Can I make a less committal move? Well, I'm going to baby step it. I'm going to do this and king f2. I'll let them capture me. And then play rook c8, and then I'll capture. If I take here, I'm helping this rook not the rook on d8. He starts to play if I take, so I think it's best I keep the tension here. f3, king f2. If I could get an e4 and then maybe e5, maybe I look to establish a pawn on e5 and fix this guy in a light square, and then we're maybe working with something. Maybe. This idea may be influencing my... Whoa, that is surprising. I just tried to say that this is If d6 is played, this type of move to undermine the pawn support of c5 is maybe something. But they're just looking to cement the knight into c4, which at the moment is not a hole. Okay, well... Ooh, another thing is I could give this check, although after king d6, what do I have? Probably b3 here. Yeah. I think I'm going to go with b3. We want to keep this knight out of c4. Oh, for a second I thought I blundered. I was like, if knight takes pawn, I can't take like this, but yeah. Again, these guys are offsetting each other, so my knight's there to control b3. Now, this is a hole, so I could look to get here with rook c5, and from there we could easily happen that the structure changes. Rook takes, rook pawn takes. I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I have the time to really assess that structural change. It would give me a passed pawn, potentially a connected passed pawn, but this knight remains quite a bit of a nuisance here on a5. I see this knight as the more aggressive of the two. You know, I don't really want to go too far with my knight on d2. Okay, let's get some faster moves in here. Okay. Why was there some hesitation there? Did I have another move? I think I'm going to try to just play within this structure, because if this pawn, yeah, let's take here. If this pawn takes, I have a passed pawn, but at the same time, I allowed this pawn to potentially move. I want to make sure he's staying put. Now, I think I might want to go for a role reversal here. No, actually, what about e4? E4 with e5 ideas. e4, king e3. e4, pawn takes, king e3. My opponent's offering a draw. I don't want to draw. I could look to do this and then kind of weasel my knight around to get to c5. This is where he wants to be. No doubt. I feel like I might be a bit overextended if I do this. Well, if this knight ever moves, I have b4. Let's do this move. No, I'm gonna go with this. Yeah, I was thinking about, throwing a quick punch at h7, but he kind of gets in the way of a king maneuver a king maneuver that I'm eyeing up. I don't know that I would even want to have a piece tied down to defending a pawn, my bishop or knight. I mean, I think the most convenient defender of b3 at this stage is my king. I think this is a fine home. A king on c3, then my knight is freed up. And I could look to get him into c5, which is a forever hole. This might be a move, or if they take here, then, they're giving me a central majority, which I don't know how great of an asset that is in this ending. Okay. Going down to the wire. We sure have exchanged a lot of pieces within these 20-some moves. Can't take with the knight. I'd be dropping b3. They play bishop b7. I might just look for a space invader pawn. Pawn up. e5, fixing some pawns on light squares. They may need to just take here. No, they're not doing that. I think they're running into some problems now. because I have some space. I have the correct kind of harmony between bishop and pawn structure. And if challenged, I can be supporting it with f4. Now's my time to get my king working. This isn't a move to try and fix my pawn on b3 on a light square. I have pressure here, and some pressure against them on the clock as well. Good knight versus bad bishop situation is what I want. I definitely want to maintain the 2 versus 2 situation in the center. Let's just offset the knight. And we're throwing a punch at the pawn. I'm prepared to give up my bishop for the knight. Whoa, another locked pawn. Let's not allow this to get too locked now. Well, just as I say that, I'm ready to play b4, knight b3, knight c5. I think it's the way to go. 49 seconds. They're really just trying to put a complete clamp on the position. Can I get into c5 without playing b4? That's what I would really like to do. Don't have much time. Well, if I had more time, I'd really like to hesitate. I'd be hesitating on making that move, but gotta get something fast in there. Well, this is a blunder because I'm hitting 3 things. They could easily go wrong. Oh, now I'm picking up a pawn. They just dropped their a6 pawn. Their knight's going to get into c4. Let's go here. Yes. Okay, let's take. Save my pawn. Probably play a little faster, huh? They're gonna lock it down. Wow. There's nothing happening on the queen side. Well, this allows this break. The bishop probably should have. Yeah, he needed to sit. Now he's dead. And I could give this check and pick up this c4 pawn. He's my next target. So, let's go after him. Yeah, I'm just mopping up some pawns now. I'm on the bishop. Let's take another pawn. And I could look forward to this and then my king improvement. Could use this pawn to deflect the king away if he tries to defend. Scoop him up. And now what? Oh, we have a fork. Should definitely be looking for the forks. And they resigned. Yeah, my knight went into a bit of a Pac-Man mode there. Okay, it was a tight one. Close game there. I wonder if it could have been held right around here, even though I was up a pawn and they're working with a bad bishop. Right around here. Suppose the bishop doesn't leave c6. I don't think I could get a good pawn break in. Let me go into the analysis. So right here. Well, no, I don't want to look at that just yet. But, if I come over. It's black's move. Let's say, let's just say they kind of pass with king there. Now, if I try to do something like this with a4 takes and then look to hunt this pawn down. Is that working? Yeah, it is working, isn't it? No, it's not. Because if I still just making passing moves, no, not a passing move in this case. This pawn, I think, starts to run now. If I take, then he pushes. My knight can't stop the pawn, my king must, and then I'm dropping my knight. I don't know if I could get it. I don't know if there's a good pawn break for me to kind of crash through. And in a way, my knight is kind of, he can't make use of these squares, these three squares either, so there's only one square open to him. A6. But where is he going from A6? Here or here? I don't see what that's really accomplishing. If I go here, the bishop backs up, and the best I could do is just return. Yeah, it might be tricky for me to win from here if the bishop didn't leave from indirectly influencing the A4 square, because this allowed the undermining of this structure, and then these guys kind of fall like dominoes in time. Okay, well, it'll certainly be one to look back on with the engine, but before I get into it, what's the opening here? So it just goes as far as saying the classical. Let's request a computer analysis. It says classical variation. Okay, yeah, I think this is fine. And I didn't want to take and help out the development, so I don't know, pretty quiet game. Okay, no, you know what, here, we have, I guess we are following theory, huh? Some? Yeah. Okay, so we're following here's one of the top games. Yevgeny Bareyev versus Vishy Anand. Played this line. Knight c6. Okay. Castles, rook c8. Queen d3. I went queen d2, so I guess one of the ideas with this is to sidestep this idea. Okay, so we followed theory for about a dozen moves, I guess. Well, I don't know theory, but some games, at least, have been played up until this point right here. Queen d2 is something different. Yeah. And probably for this reason, that's why queen d3 should be played. To avoid this win of the dark square bishop. Which, I mean, as I was saying during the game, I was fine with it. Had h6 been played, I was going to be capturing the knight. Anyhow. Queen d2, I don't think there's any fancy tactics missed, just some things to sidestep, like I mentioned during the game, but yeah, pretty quiet. This is certainly the one move to question in the game. Kills the bishop, gives me squares to work with, a square to work with, c5. It's the main one. And sure enough, as soon as I made use of that, one move later, I'm picking up some material. It didn't have to go down like that, but just the activity alone, there's a lot of different things to consider when you have a piece in your position. They should do without d6. Something much more conservative like, or they should do without d5. Something more conservative like d6, I imagine is better. Keeping a close eye on this. But they had it in their mind to jump the knight into c4. This is a much different story if my pawn is already committed to b4. And this is already a hole for black, but it's not the case right now. So d5, I'm just fighting against the move they played, taking away the c4 square. How many pieces they have on it? A ton. But I only need one pawn there to stop a piece from arriving. Yeah, they shouldn't have gone with that. It's maybe still holdable, but it's definitely black who's struggling here, and they're going all in, placing pawns on light squares. They're really just trying to lock down the whole position. I shouldn't have been, yeah, again, I probably should have done something different because what we saw is that as soon as I played B4, black was like right on that, you know. C4 is now a hole, and sure enough, the knight is finding a way in there. So I should be a bit more patient, but I kind of, as mentioned, made this move with an eye on the clock. I do have time. It's such a locked position. I do have time to maneuver, you know, knight f3, e1, d3, and then c5. I get in this square here, and maybe even, another way to look at it, and it may seem a bit far-fetched, but, by having a pawn on b4, I could forget about trying to enter with my king like this. So he kind of blocks a specific path into the black position. This is something black would have to kind of weigh, is a possible king invasion. It's these type of positions remind me of my favorite Nintendo game, Solomon's Key, where it's just you really have to find like the correct path and have build the blocks or put your pawns on the exact on the correct squares and look for these different plans. Anyhow, I gave up that c4 square. They just dropped a pawn here. So they have to do something different, like maybe that. I don't, no, they can't do that so fast because my knight is hitting everything. He's hitting really, really fast here, isn't he? Here I'm hitting 4 pieces. King, bishop, and a couple pawns. So maybe they're already in trouble. Maybe b4 is okay, and the knight move is off. Let's see. b4, I think they already have to take some measures against knight c5, so maybe this. Knight b3, and then king here. Knight check, and the bishop does a good job of offsetting the knight. It's a really bad bishop, but at least it's offsetting my knight. I'm still able to play for something, but it's a much bigger struggle with still material being bounced. Even though I have the correct harmony, again, between bishop and pawn structure and some space, I don't know if this would be enough to convert with so many instances of fixed pawns. I do have a pawn break here, a4, and maybe with that a timely capture of a6. Still a big struggle. They made it a little bit easier on me as soon as I got that pawn, and also when they pulled the bishop away from the a4 square. Now I think I'm almost certain, +5. Let's see what the graph is looking like. There you have it. Let's just look at one of the points here. Yeah, right around this point. 1 pawn advantage, I don't know. 1 point advantage, I don't think is enough. Yeah, bishop d3 is fine. b4. We'll have a look at it. Let's put on the engine right from the beginning. Don't think there's anything missed. We could see that there was nothing missed. Yeah. Kind of zip right through to this ending and just... Oh, right here, d5. I would just want to look at d5. It's not something that's going to show up on the evaluation, but... Yeah, I mean, we're not seeing a big shift right there, but d5 is... I think d6 is better. Computer likes white more as soon as d6 is played, but no. I don't think you should be giving up that c5 square, so I think d6 is better. Okay. They went with d5, still holding. Just a slight advantage for white. Nothing significant. I guess they could have considered a capture. And at least this bishop is now relevant. You know, he's eyeing up some of my pieces. As soon as d5 was played in the game, the bishop never saw the white side of the board. As an alternative to just take, I was very happy to get this in. And I maintain my pawn on e5. Yeah, they have to be really careful now. As soon as b4 is in, easy to go wrong. And maybe it is just busted from here. He is hitting c5 really fast. Yeah. Still holding at 1.5. Takes. How do I win this, though? I think the computer would need a little bit more time to really evaluate this. Okay, it doesn't like that move. Why exactly? King d2 is what I did. King c3. And suppose they shuffle. This is what I was questioning. Oh! I could just play a4 straight away, so this is here no matter what. Yeah, I could do this. Oh, which also... That's why they did this move, maybe. Because they saw I was ready to undermine, but one way or the other, I'm getting this break in. Okay. a4 takes, king takes, bishop check, king here, a3. I gotta start running. Okay, yeah, I mean it's winning, but it's a little bit uncomfortable for me. You know, I don't even want to have to deal with this guy being passed. And at the moment there's a bit of a wall here stopping my king from approaching the pawn. But yeah, as it was played, I'm getting in a4 and I don't have to worry about a passed rook pawn, which is for a knight a nightmare. And then I'm able to scoop up the c pawn and everything else. So a little bit more resistance, but by this time we're both in bullet mode. And yeah, just Pac-Man from there. Okay, well, pretty simplified one. I think a couple games back in this standard games playlist, it was quite a simplified game. Another one here, but managed to pull something out of it. As usual, feel free to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. And as always, I hope you got something out of it. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.